hear me?
Hey! Finally, we got connected. So you tried a different device this time.
Yes, I tried a different device, so it worked out from the phone.
Oh, great. Yeah. Anyways, Saurav, thank you so much, firstly, for joining. And I know it's a Sunday afternoon and it's a relaxing time. So thanks for having your chit chat with me.
No, thank you, Payal, for having me on on this conversation. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. So thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks. And I guess for the viewers, because we had some glitches earlier, so I'll just repeat one more time so they know who we are speaking to and what are we going to talk about. So for the ones watching, today we'll be having a conversation with Saurav Atri, who is an executive strengths coach and also a winner of Singapore's Most Supportive Husband in 2016, Mrs. Singapore 2016. And we wish to get as much information as we can from Saurav today about what goes inside a mind of a man. So if you're a man, you will definitely be able to pick up insights on how to navigate certain challenges. And if you are a female, definitely you will know how to support your man better. So why not, Saurav, we start to just listen to you, because I mean, you are the man here who is, I really admire you for being a top leader in your industry at such a young age, and also being able to manage work, family, being a strengths coach, and also the most supportive husband. So can you share a little bit about your journey? How did you start off from India, where you came from, and where you are today?
Thank you, Payal, for your kind words and your introduction as well. My name is Saurav, basically, and as they say, behind every successful man, there's a woman, and behind every unsuccessful man there are two. So definitely, I had that sorted out. That I had one woman, and I'm loyal to her, and I think that's really helped having a stable home. But jokes apart, I think I'm just blessed and privileged to have my wife, who's very supportive. She'll be in my life journey as well. And I think we all seek to have at least your home stability sorted out so you can also fulfill your aspirations from a career perspective as well. So I think, I've been just fortunate to, have those opportunities in my lifetime. And of course, having a stable home helps you create that.
Right. And talking about that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of men, because I have a list of questions here in front of me that some of the viewers have asked in advance. And this comes from the males. What they say is that, as they go through this entire journey of life, when they're trying to build a career or home, not everyone might be as privileged to have a smooth journey. And a lot of times, they may be going through their own struggles, but that is when they are still expected to be the pillar of strength, or have it all together, and they just wish that they could just break down sometimes, but they can't. So I'm sure as a coach, you are aware of this. And what advice would you like to give this group of people? How can they manage this?
I think it's a really important point that you've mentioned, Payal, especially around, when you talk about managing it. And this is what I say, right? What are we managing? I think the fundamental aspect of any human relationship is around expectations. And, as a man, as a human being, not just only limited to men, but also to all genders, is people have expectations, society have expectations, and, your parents have expectations, your spouses have expectations, but most importantly, you also have expectations from your own life. And managing those expectations becomes one of the biggest and the most important drivers for any relationship to be successful. And that starts with, even understanding your own expectations from life, and when those expectations are not met, you feel disappointed. And when you're looking for, partners or a support system or a wife or a husband, you want somebody who can help you meet and exceed those expectations in life. So I think that word expectation is an important ingredient of any relationship to be successful, and the alignment of that is the secret sauce
here. Yeah, and absolutely, I do completely agree that, and although we are having this conversation around expectations, I do have a lot of people saying, so should I just not expect anything? Should I just go through whatever I'm put through? And I think this is one specific question that a lady had asked me, and I'll bring that forward now. she said that, there are times that, yes, I do understand that, maybe the guy in my life needs that space, or, I should not expect him to give me that much of attention. I should understand his perspective. But first question is, what about me? Does he understand my needs? So that's the first one. And the follow-up to that is that even if I want to support him, she doesn't know how, because it is very difficult for a woman to try and get a man to open up, or rather for this lady who asked me the question. So can you share a little bit on that conflict that a woman goes through to get a man to speak up?
Yeah, I think, what I'm hearing you say, Payal, is that, in a human to human relationship, does a man need to always come across as too strong, or is it difficult for a man to open up? I think it's about creating psychological safety, and the question here is, how do you get somebody to open up? Starts with, are you willing to listen first, right? So opening up means that I should be listening to the other person talk. Mm-hmm. Only then you have to give them the space and the permission to open up, right? And that space is what I call, is you have to create a space of psychological safety. Mm-hmm. So then how do we do that? How do we create a space of psychological safety in a human relationship, right? It starts with trust. Can I trust the other person? That I can give my, what I call, a gold jewelry to that person. I'm giving them my vulnerabilities, my secrets to that person. To be able to create psychological safety, there also has to be an environment of non-judgment, right? Am I feeling judged? Because the moment, you feel judged, the person will shut down, and then they will give you the show face and not the real story right there. So I think those two ingredients are important to create psychological safety: is trust and the ability to just be non-judgmental in a relationship.
Right. So what you're actually saying is that usually in a conversation, between a man or woman, or, anyone, even same gender sometimes, or even if we want to try and understand the person, there's this saying that, I want to give a rose to this person, but instead of giving the rose first, I turn it around and then I give the thorns first, and then comes the rose. So are we really willing to understand by listening to the person, or do we already have this preconceived ideas of what could have happened, and then after they come out and they are really vulnerable, are we going to throw all of that onto them, or are we just going to be there to listen, and that's it, just providing that space to speak up?
Yes, and that's where it's important, is what are we listening for, right? And how are we seeing life, and what is our way of looking at the world? Actually, I have a social experiment for the viewers who are logged in. If this might help open up our understanding a little bit more, help us get a little bit unlocked. And when it comes to human relationship, it gives, help them understand how do we manage those relationships better. So here's a question for all the people who are logged in live right now.
All right.
We've been speaking for the past 10 minutes or so. Was there a painting behind my head all this while, right? So I want each of you to think about this, right? I've been speaking for the past 10 minutes. You've been watching Payal and me talk. If there's a painting, go and write down in the chat if there was a painting there over the last 10 minutes. Go and use the chat function and the comment function and write on, go and put in the comments if you think there was a painting. And if yes, I also want you to point out what was the color of the painting. There's a great learning that's behind this social experiment.
Yes.
So it's an invitation to all of you to comment.
Okay, if you know that there was something, type yes. If you feel that no, there wasn't, type no. What do you think? Was there a painting behind Saurav or not?
And Payal, this is a question for you as well. You can also answer, on behalf.
Okay, so I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to say it outright. Yes, I did notice the painting. There was a painting behind Saurav.
What color was it, if you remember that?
Should I say it out?
Yes,
or
absolutely.
Give the viewers a chance for that. I'm just, okay, there are a few people. I'm just trying to see if someone can say it out before I could give my...
Sure. Go ahead, Payal. You can give it a guess if there was a painting.
All right, so it was to do with either orange or reddish shade, warmer shade. That's what I remember seeing. And
Payal, you're right. There are a lot of people who are watching in who did not notice that, but actually you did. Yes, there was a painting behind me. It's red in color with a little bit of, smooth panels there. But here's what just happened right now, right? While you're looking at me right now, what you're seeing is purely a manifestation of your 5 senses sending signals to your brain that's creating an inverted image in your head, right? Isn't that how eyes work? Light falls in, creates an inverted image in our brains, and that's how we perceive life. The reality is, if I ask each one of the people who are logged in live to, share with me what they saw, what they heard, what they thought, you'll realize you'll get 50 different renditions of the same image. They all would say different things. Oh, there was no painting, I'm pretty sure of it. Oh, no, there's, a red colored painting or a blue colored painting. And that's the complication of human perspectives.
Right.
We all see the world from our own lenses and our own perspectives. But the problem is we assume that the way somebody else is looking at this world is the same as I am. And we fight about that.
Yeah.
And that's not only related to what our eyes see, but also what our ears hear. Oh, you said this, I'm pretty sure. Here's what you mean. We assume. We even go to a point that I know what you're thinking. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're doing. And we sort of put that perspective out there. So fundamentally, I say the challenge in any human relationship is communication. Right? Communication is the biggest flaw because even the words we say gets misinterpreted based on how we are looking at the world.
Yeah.
So to be able to create a great partnership and great relationship requires effective communication. That starts with spending meaningful time with each other, giving each other attention. I'd say growth happens whoever and whatever you give attention. If you give attention to a relationship, that'll grow as well. If you give attention to a conversation, that'll grow as well. If you ignore that and you're focused on the other things in life, your phones, your notifications, and all the other distractions, then of course that relationship will deteriorate as well. So that's something fundamentally, managing that understanding that my perspective is different than theirs, and it's important for me to spend time to get to know them is important.
Yeah. That's absolutely right, Saurav. And I mean, each and everything, right from the experiment that you covered and, understanding each other, where are you focusing your energy, and about the lenses that you use. And, I call this lenses and filters as well, because when you look at someone through your lens and you expect them to be a certain way, when you're receiving responses from the person or anyone in our surroundings, we kind of unconsciously filter it out. So we filter it out through our own filter of perceptions, understanding, experiences, judgments sometimes, which you just spoke about a while ago. So yeah, that's very true. But with constant effort of directing our energy in the right direction of improving a certain relationship, that is what is going to help us. And this is where I'm going to ask you this question. Knowing Shilpi and you for a long time now, I know that both of you are like poles apart, yet when I see the two of you, it's like a beautiful bond coming together. I mean, I know you guys have your differences, but then you somehow just make it happen and you just keep growing. So what can you tell our viewers about that? How do you manage to do it? Your secret ingredient?
Well, I think there is no easy way out. It's never been smooth. It's never been perfect. It's always going to be a work in progress, is what I say, right? But I think the foundation of any relationship is that are you willing to invest time to work on it? I say a relationship is just like a business, right? You have to invest time. If you invest time, it will grow, right? If you ignore any business, if you ignore your work, it's going to deteriorate as well. So the same thing goes with the relationship as well. And because we're so different human beings, our needs are different. So it starts by fundamentally first understanding yourself. So, from in my role and my job, I'm an executive coach, but also it requires me to, understand myself better to see what am I good at, what I'm not good at. So I'm playing to my own strengths. Yeah. I think that really truly transformed our relationship. It was never smooth in the beginning because we're so different as human beings. It's only through conscious attention and awareness and involvement in a relationship that helped. Where I spend time to get to know her, of course, we have a psychometric assessment both of us coach around. Yep. So it's called the Clifton Strengths Assessment that gave me an awareness of who I am, what my strengths are, and what I'm not naturally. I'll give you an example, right? And this might be useful for people listening in live as well. I say this, right? So I say, think about, how many of you can walk into a room and you feel the emotions of other people, right? Again, if you would like to comment, go ahead and comment. If that's you, if you can do that, if you're a person who can walk into a room and can feel the emotions of other people, I call that's called a gift of empathy. Where people with empathy are really good in reading micro expressions of people's faces, right? They can walk in and they can sense how people are feeling. Unfortunately, that's not my gift, right? So when I took this psychometric assessment, Clifton Strengths, and look at all the 34 strengths people have, or themes, what we call it, my right at the bottom was empathy. So what that means and when I took my wife, Shilpi, through that assessment, her number one Clifton strengths theme came as empathy, right? So what that means in my life is when I had a really bad day at work and I go home, right, she would just magically figure it out something is wrong, right? And she'll ask me, Saurav, are you okay? Right? Of course, I feel really good when she does that because it's like, hey, you get me, right? I needed you. I wanted this support system and you were there for me. And I went out, yeah, this happened, that happened, and blah, blah. I just share what's happening in that moment. I feel better because all that negative energy is out of my system. So just imagine when she's had a bad day, when she's feeling upset. And my filters don't allow me to feel that emotion. It's not natural to me, right?
Yes.
How does that make her feel, right? And that's when I realized two things, Payal. Like, wow, when I saw her report, her number one thing being empathy, like, oh my God, I've been blind to her needs all along because I was assuming she should think like me, she should feel like me, she should behave like me. And the moment I saw that, that report and that, strength and that the need behind that strength to be understood, I'm like, oh my God, I need to pay attention to her needs because she's very different than me.
Right.
The second big insight I had when I went through that assessment and when I was thinking deeply about it was that we don't feel disappointed because of, other people's actions and reactions. I say we feel disappointed because of our expectations of their actions and reactions. And where do those expectations come from? From how I see the world. Right. So if I'm somebody who maybe, very fun loving and very positive oriented, I'm also expecting subconsciously for the other person to be that, for that person to be enthusiastic all the time, to enjoy celebrations. And if I don't like problems, I'm expecting them also not to like problems. But I realized actually, people are different. So when we spend time communicating effectively, when I say effectively, is when we sat down and talked about, hey, here's who I am, right? And here's who you are. Here are my needs. Here are your needs. I think that truly transformed our relationship, especially because we're so different as human beings.
Right. So talking about effective communication, and this is so interesting because we always talk about communicating, opening up, but what exactly is effective communication? I mean, yes, I share about how I really feel, but I think that's where the challenge comes. After I share about it, what next? So if let's take the example of, you mentioned beautifully that, Shilpi, your wife, is really good in sensing something is not right and it comes easy to her. But what about those people who are not able to have that naturally coming to them? So when they are open to effective communication, what's the next step that you suggest?
I love what Rituraj has mentioned in the comments. He talked about, right, that a person needs to be heard and not misunderstood, right? And for me, that is the core, and I think Rituraj, you've really hit the nail on the head, is when we go into a conversation, are we truly listening to a person? Are we really listening to not only what they're saying, but also what they're not saying and why they're not saying that? And to do that, you really need to pay attention. Now, subconsciously, it may not be your natural style. Like for me, it's not, right? I could easily go into my own head. You can go locked into your own thoughts and your own perspectives. So then being aware of yourself first is important. That, hey, that's my natural tendency. That I could easily switch off. Or, you could start getting into, oh, you said something, let me tell you about my life. Here's what happened in my life. So then how are you really exploring that person's journey as well? So I realized I used to do that a lot, and that was getting in the way of my relationship. So I said, sort of, hold on, just pause and truly try to listen what that person is going through. Not from the first degree of listening where we're just trying to listen for things we want to hear. I call selective listening, right? But really listening for things that they want to hear. And I would even go deeper. I say, whenever you are with somebody, right, and they're narrating something to you, ask yourself, how are you making that person feel, right? So imagine, right, if you're telling me about what happened in your day, right, and I cut you short and I'm telling you what happened in my day, right? What happens is I'm taking you out of your own head and I'm trying to bring you into my story. The question is, the best movies you've seen, the best TV shows or Netflix series you've seen are the ones where you get immersed fully, isn't it? And that's how it should be. in a human conversation, that you should get immersed in that person's life story, someone that you want to explore more what's happening. So equipping yourself with some great questions can help you build a great relationship, because then you expand on that person's life story. And I say, right, if I ask you, hey, Payal, tell me about, you tell me what your day is. How did you feel? What happened? Tell me more, right? You show enthusiasm, excitement, and you'll notice the moment you ask a great question in a human-to-human conversation, you'll see that person's eyes will just light up. You'll see this, the tone of voice will shift. There'll be this excitement, this energy to tell you more, and that's when you can know that you've got the right conversation.
Yeah.
You've got the person in a great sentiment. Well, if I'll ask you, right, so a human-to-human communication and conversation, and we say, oh, I have a relationship with this person, right? What is a relationship? How do you even describe it? Is it just, what you signed on a piece of paper, your ROM or your marriage contract? Is that what you call a relationship? Or that emotional connection that two people have, right? So if you see a relationship as an emotional connection or a psychological connection, even a physical connection between two people, think about what happens in the brain, right?
Yeah.
In the brain, psychologically, it releases a chemical. And in scientific terms, we call the chemical oxytocin. Whenever your brain releases oxytocin, which means you start to trust the person. So then, if we are having a great relationship, my mind is also releasing a chemical in the brain right now. And actually, I will remember you based on that chemical also. So if I had a bad conversation with somebody else, my mind would release cortisol. And I would remember that person based on that bad chemical that goes on, right? And that's what it is, right? The more what I call dopamine, the more positive hormones you release in a human-to-human conversation with two people, the more stronger the relationship is. And that's why I say, right? The more meaningful conversations, experiences, memories you create between two people, the stronger that relationship and that bond becomes. So if you want to go and do something, if you want to build a strong relationship with your wife, your husband, your spouse, your child, go and have a meaningful conversation. Go and have a meaningful experience. Do something that creates a positive memory for you, because then you're strengthening that relationship, strengthening the bond between those two individuals. That'll be my thinking on that.
Yeah, very, very powerful indeed, Saurav. And I think 2 points that I picked up was, even before trying to understand the other person, understand yourself. Where are you coming from? Because, maybe there is nothing wrong and I'm just carrying my own lenses and seeing things through my lenses. So maybe I need to reflect on myself first to see that, hey, what am I all about right now? What is my emotional situation right now? And then the second thing that I picked up from this is also that, if I'm willing to have this conversation, to be able to first communicate and listen, I have to really be present and decide that today or this moment is only about you. It's not about me, it's not about us, but about you. And the moment you get the you, understanding you right, that is when the rest of it will automatically flow through.
Absolutely. And this is where I say, right, so the day you start thinking of your partnership or relationship not as me versus you, but as we, when you think that person is an extension of you, right, that's when you start truly shifting your mindset to what that person is. So I'll give an example, right? Say, for example, you're walking in the house and your left hand, tumbles a vase and it breaks down. Do you scold your left hand? Do you hit your left hand? Do you say anything bad or you abuse your left hand? Do you?
That would be a bit crazy, no.
Exactly. And that's what it is, right? The day you start thinking of your partner as an extension of you, then you would forgive all the mistakes that they would do and accept them for who they are. And that's where it's a mindset shift more than anything else. It's not me versus you, it's about us and we. That's where it starts shifting.
I think that's a beautiful point, and I'm going to repeat it for the viewers that, the moment you start to see your partner not as a different person, but as an extension of you, that's where the magic happens. So I guess that is coming from Singapore's most supportive husband. So I'm sure it really works, and beautifully said. That is, I think, one of the greatest learning that we have from you today, Saurav. So thank you so much for being so generous to share about that. And I think we will be closing soon, but before that, I'm going to open up the floor for a few questions from our viewers, because we've covered quite a bit and I'm mindful of your time as well. So we have covered quite a bit, and we have about 5 minutes to take any additional questions from the viewers, anything to do with you yourself, if you want to improve as a man, or if you're a female, any other questions that you have right now. Okay. If not, I do have a question for you though, Saurav. So, we talk a lot about male-female romantic relationship. So this entire conversation we had about, in order to understand a man, we have to really be there to listen to them, communicate with them, trust them. I believe that goes the other way around as well. It's not just female to male, but it's also vice versa. Now, this happens in a romantic relationship. What about relationship with parents, for example? Because especially during COVID times and the lockdown that we experienced last year, 2020, a lot of people were having clashes and challenges with the family members. Does this apply true to that, or is there something more or different that you would like to suggest?
I think the human relationship has some core foundations, right? So trust, reliability, that they're going to be there for me. And that's why I say, right, why do people hold on to family members? Because they're there for you whenever you want them to be there. And either way, whenever you don't want them, they're still there for you. So there is a special connection of having had many, many years of experiences with them, right? That's what makes them two people come closer. Whether it's parents, whether it's brothers, sisters, cousins, relationships, all forms of relationship, are built stronger through shared experiences, is what I say, right? Now, here's what I say, right? So I say foundation of any relationship is also expectations as well. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. I think this will help land better for people who are listening in. Ask yourself, right? So if, say, if you've gone to a hotel room, right? Say, you went to a Marriott and that's your favorite hotel, and you walk into the room and you see a bottle of champagne, you see a bouquet of flowers, a box of chocolates, a personalized message for you written there. How would that make you feel when you walk into that particular room right there, Payal?
I mean, absolutely welcoming, firstly, and probably I'm already thinking of making this hotel my favorite hotel and visit again and again.
Perfect. So now, second time you go in, you again see similar champagne, box of chocolates, a personalized message. How would you feel the second time around?
Oh, that's good. Looks like it's a standard.
Yeah. Now, and the third time you go in, and this time there is no box of chocolate, there is no personalized message, there's no, bad bottle of champagne. It's, normal standard procedures that they have is just a room there. How would you feel now?
Okay, that's, I would personally feel that, hey, there's something that I'm entitled to, but it's taken away from me.
There you go, right? If you think about this, the first time they went over and beyond to make you feel special, right? So what happened was, initially when you walked in, why did you feel great? Why did you feel delighted? Was when you walked into the hotel, you were not expecting it. So what they did was, you were expecting something like A, but they gave you something more, and that made you feel delighted, right? The second time you walked in, your expectation had already been raised now. So that becomes your new standards of excellence or your status quo. When you walked in, your expectations were being met, you felt contented, you felt good. Okay, that's fair. It's new standards of excellence that they have. But when they did not meet that new expectations you have, they did what was expected of them fundamentally, suddenly you feel disappointed. So fundamentally, in a human expectation, human relationship, if you exceed somebody's expectation, you make that person feel delighted. You release a positive chemical in the brain of dopamine. When those expectations are not met, or I would say when they're just about met, when you meet those expectations, people feel contented. And when you don't meet that expectation, that person feels disappointed. And that's the same concept in a human-to-human interaction and human-to-human relationship as well, right? The problem is, this expectation is a moving marker, right? You do something nice. For example, I bring my wife, a bouquet of flowers. I bring it every day. Of course, they'll feel good for a while, but then that becomes a new way of life. And if I don't bring it, suddenly that person will feel disappointed, right? Yeah. And that's why they say, right, make the special occasions really special and make normal days also good, but not like, promise things that you would not deliver on. So making sure you promise the right things and delivering and exceeding those promises is important.
Exactly.
So foundationally, I would say is, lowering expectations and exceeding them every single time is
Right.
secretly a great partnership with relationship, any human relationship. That.
Under promise and over deliver at all times. Yeah, that's safe, and that's probably how it works. And Saurav, I actually have a question from a viewer, Ruturaj, and he's actually asking you, and I love this question because he's asking you that you hold a tag of the most supportive husband, and I mean, I'm sure it's not just in the year 2016, but it stays with you. So is there a lot of pressure, because we all go through ups and downs? That's the question from Ruturaj.
Great question there, Raj. And if you ask my wife, am I an ideal husband? I don't think she'll say that. But having said that, I think it's a relationship is always a work in progress. Of course, there are ups and downs. There's times that when I'm having a bad day, when she's having a bad day. This is where when you provide a great support system to each other, you can come out stronger together, right? For me, that's an important ingredient there. Is does your partner is there for you when you need them? Because a human relationship is, we can become very self-oriented, we can become very selfish as human beings, right? We'll just think about what's in it for me, what's my needs are, but sometimes we don't pay enough attention to the needs of other people. And I say this, right? And it's nothing, not a problem that we've created. It's, I would say, it's what we've been brainwashed all our lives with. The golden rule tells you should treat people the way you would like to be treated, right? But I have a big disconnect with that statement. I don't think we should treat people the way we would like to be treated. Rather, we should treat people the way they would like to be treated.
Absolutely.
That means we need to pay attention to what their needs are, what excites them, what motivates them, what are their expectations of you. And only an effective communication, conversation around that will help you align those. Otherwise, we're only second guessing. Yeah. And that's another thing, right? We talked about earlier that, hey, as a man, do I have to be somebody who I'm not? Yeah, trying to flex myself. This is where I think if you are having effective communication, then you don't really have to put up a facade. You can truly be who you are, and the other person is going to accept you for who you are, but that requires really deep understanding. Right? Really spending time to getting to know each other better. That's why I say, right, should be now what we do is we realize that, our relationship was on a downward trend. So how do we pull it up? It's like business. Business has cycles too. So we said, let's find something that could create meaningful connection. So we ended up going for walks together. So we left the phone at home, or just make sure we never touch the phone when we're walking. And we used to talk about what happened in her day, what happened in my day. And I think those things really helped. So it's not about being an ideal husband. It's about just being an observant and understanding human being, right? And the times when you're so locked into your own head as well. And maybe, this is where you need to keep yourself in check and just, call it out that, hey, I have to be present with that person. I say this, right? We don't know what's coming ahead in life. What's gone is gone. So the best we can do is try to stay present in the moment with that individual. And that means listening deeply. I think that's the key ingredient of any relationship success, is listening.
Definitely. And I think we have one more question from a viewer, Ruben, and he says, hi, Saurav and Payal. What is your advice for couples who live separate in different countries due to this pandemic? Perfect question, Ruben. And what is the important element they should pay attention in this difficult time? Lovely. So,
Ruben, that's a great question. And it's hard. Human connections are, like I said, human experiences are created by all our five senses, right? So we see somebody, right? That's a data point going to your brain. We hear that person's voice, and then we taste and touch and feel. And all those are different, I would say, data point that goes into our brain when we are having a human-to-human conversation. But what's the most important ingredient of all that is all those data points are wrapped up in an emotion. How that person makes you feel in that interaction. So I say this, right? Even though you may be lacking the sense of touch, the sense of taste, because that person is far away, but you still have the ears and eyes, right? So you can still make it into a meaningful experience even within that limited data point you have. And I remember, speaking to a couple who was almost 70 years old, married for 50 years. And I asked them, hey guys, what made you stay for so long? And they said that every week they used to have wine o'clock. No matter wherever they are, in which part of the world, every day at 9 o'clock, they will get together on a phone call or a video call, and they will have wine together with each other, right? For me, what that meant was that they were able to create a meaningful interaction over wine, so that they're keeping that spark going, that conversation going. And that was really, really honest about that. And that really helped. in building that relationship strong. So I learned from their experiences also, and then try to apply some of that in my life. So I don't have a 1 o'clock, but rather what we have is a 9 o'clock walk that we do.
Yeah, you have a
every
walk
evening.
clock.
We have a walk o'clock, yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one more thing I would like to add on here is that, a lot of times, coming back to the teamwork part of things, that, it comes from both sides, because especially when you're in two different countries and, probably your time zones are totally different as well, and there's a lot of inconvenience. Now, there happens to be that at times, the personalities of the people are different. One person might need to feel more connected. The other person prefers to, have space, because not everybody is digital friendly. So in that case, how do you then understand and support each other? For example, the wine o'clock or the walk o'clock that you're talking about, so can we find that one single time and make it consistent? So I think consistency is something that can really tell you that you can trust this person, because okay, I might decide to have a nice call or like a walk-in call with this other person in another country this weekend, but the next weekend it doesn't happen. So, are you putting in that equal effort that despite your differences and despite your preferences as well, you do make it a point to consistently invest in this thing, because that's what's going to grow and build your relationship further, so that when the lockdown is over, it can probably even be much better than what it was before.
And Payal, to that point, right, I've realized that, we have always been brainwashed to look at what's wrong with that person. That's his flaw, that's her flaw, that's what they've done wrong. What if you start looking at what's right with people versus what's wrong in any relationship, right? Imagine if you start looking out for, oh, that person did well. I say, whatever you give attention to grows. So if you give attention to what their good behaviors are, you call it out, it's going to help you grow that part of them as well. So, appreciation goes a long way. A smile goes a long way. So you'll be surprised how, our brains are wired to go into a fault-finding mission every day with people. And it has to be a conscious effort that instead of trying to find what's wrong with that person, I'm going to make a conscious effort to find what's right with the person.
That's correct, because I think we are wired and we are grown, we grew up that way, that, we are always trying to fix things that are wrong, but nobody really bothers about, hey, what is going right? And if this is going right, why not put more energy here and make it bigger, rather than wasting your time trying to fix something and wasting that precious energy on what can be even greater. And I think this is where, probably the viewers should also know about this wonderful tool called the Clifton Strengths Assessment. And both you and I, Saurav and I, are certified coaches for Clifton Strengths Assessment. And I think this is one tool that you should really invest in, because that is something that shifts your viewpoint completely. And a lot of people feel that, hey, but if you only look at the strengths or the good part, what about the things that need to be fixed? So sort of probably, you being the executive strengths coach, how do you handle these situations? Because that's the first instinct that people have. Hey, but what about my weaknesses? Why do we only focus about strengths? So what's your answer to that?
Well, here's what I say, right? So if you focus on what you're not good at best you'll become average, right? But if you focus on what you're great at, what your state of strengths is, maybe you're giving yourself the opportunity to become the world's best at it. So that's why I truly say is, try to grow in those areas. And you pick any successful person, that's what they did, right? They really focused on what they were great at, and they became the world's best in that.
Yeah.
And here's what I say, right? So, relationship, in a husband-wife relationship or a mother-child relationship, we want them to be like us, right? And think about this, right? So this is a question for all people who are logged in. How many of us have tried to change the behavior of our spouse? Raise your hand.
Or comment.
Right? Or put in the comment that, yes, I've tried. And the question is, did it work? Right? So, and again, I'll even flip the question for all the people as well. How many of our spouses have tried to change our behaviors? Right? Did it really work? So fundamentally, human beings don't change. Let me just say it out loud. We do evolve, we do grow, but who we are, what we've developed over the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years of a lifetime, that behavior, those habits don't change overnight. So if you're expecting going into a relationship, this person will change, right? You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Instead, ask yourself, how do I work with the best part of this person? And that's why playing to strength is important. And that's what the question each one of you should also understand. Hey, what is the best part of me that I can bring out every day?
Yeah.
And it starts by trying to be someone that you want to hang out with, right? If you hate your own company, that's terrible, isn't it? How do you expect others to enjoy your own company if you hate your own company? So first, you be a person who you want to hang out with, that others want to hang out with, and that's where your spouse will also want to hang out with you, isn't it?
Right.
So when do we do that? Imagine, when do you want to hang out with people? When people bring, a sense of trust, they bring a positive vibe in your life. They are, somebody who you enjoy spending time with. So why don't you start being that person first, right? And you'll see that people naturally would want to be hanging out with you because you're somebody with energy, with fun, with positivity with you, and you bring sense of hope to people, trust to people, compassion to people, care, emotional understanding. Great, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So I think fundamentally, playing to your strengths is the way to a happier life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, they say your vibe attracts your tribe. So, if you are focusing on making your strengths better each day, they are going to shine through you. And, that's going to attract a lot of positive things in your life, which are vibing with that energy, that you carry. And of course, talking about that, people feel that, hey, but what if things are going wrong in my life? They don't realize that actually, rather than trying to be something else or fix that weakness, they can use their strengths and polish these strengths to make things better. So rather than being someone else, as you said, you don't have to be an imposter or be someone else. Just be yourself, the best version of yourself, and your weaknesses that you consider as a weakness right now will automatically transform into something great in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think this is the last question that we are going to take, because we will have to end soon. Probably we need another session on just talking about strengths. But there's this question from Ruben saying that, hi Saurav, what is your advice for couples applying for divorce for not to let it happen? Oh, do we have time to speak about that? Because, Saurav, up to you.
I think I can quickly address it. It's a very difficult situation to be in, right? No doubt about that. And here's what I say, right? I would ask you, first of all, what got you together in the first place, right? If you are making that life, it's a big life decision to take, right? And it is, the question to ask yourself is, what got you together, right? What were the expectations that were fulfilled? And what expectations are not being fulfilled today? Right? So that's a deeper conversation, Payal. It's not an easy decision for anybody. Of course, people talk about it. Even in fights, the D word gets thrown out a lot in most relationships, right? And I say relationships are not easy, right? Relationships require work. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to put the work into a relationship, right? And if that's not for you, that's not for you, that's okay as well. The point is that we only live once. We have 30, 40, 50, 60 years of life left ahead of us. So how do you want to lead that life? It's your, right? And can you create a meaningful life with that person? You don't have to be the person just for the sake of it. But like I said, you have to be the person if you're willing, if you want to, if you really feel that you can invest and make it a great life for both you and them. But here it is, right? Relationship is also a little bit about compromise.
Yeah.
So if you would not look at that, oh, I'm going to always have my way, then you're not going to make the other person's life enjoyable. You're going to make their life miserable. So it's a little bit of compromise on both sides. I think that's a key ingredient of any successful relationship: compromise.
Absolutely.
And tolerance. I think tolerance is another thing.
I think the tolerance comes first, and patience. Patience and tolerance is something that I think it's a lifelong learning for all of us. So, well, thanks, Saurav, for addressing that. In case they want to reach out to you, what is the best way to get to you?
I'm on Instagram. They can message me on Instagram. If they like, I'm on Facebook. They can message me on Facebook if they like. They can also email me on saurav.atri@gmail.com, either or. Like I said, my purpose in life is to help people live the best lives possible. And I have committed my lifetime to do that. And I'm trying to help people as much as possible to do that as well.
So, Saurav, Thank you very much for joining us again. I mean, I think we planned for about like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and it went on to an hour. But I think that's great because there were a lot of insights that we could pick from this conversation. And I'm sure a lot of tips that are directly helpful for a lot of people here. So again, thanks, Saurav, and enjoy your Sunday evening.
So thank you everyone for logging in. Thank you, Rupen, for great questions, and Ruturaj, and we really appreciate your time. And like I said, the greatest gift you can give somebody is your time, because you can't create more of it. So we are really grateful that you decided to spend your Sunday afternoon with us, and looking forward to your back. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you
So much, Saurav. Thanks.